Same murder three. Strange things that happen here. How stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree?
Welcome to Strange Things, broadcasting from the Raimundo Rios Mayo Library in Arkanasa. And welcome to tonight's show, Strange Things with Chris James. Tonight we're going to be talking about shadow people, also known as shadow beings or shadow creatures. It's July 30th, 2016, session number 1, episode 14. So, what are shadow people? There are lots of ideas, but very difficult to actually come to a consensus with anyone. I know they're out there. I was sitting in my unit one night. It was dark, but it wasn't pitch black. I could see around me okay. Had my window rolled down, get a little fresh air. And as I'm sitting there, someone walked right up beside my window. So I quickly turned to the left to see who was standing there, and there was nobody there. Now, yes, you could say, oh, it's your imagination. But this would happen more than once over the course of several years. Looking into it, I started to hear other people were having similar occurrences. They just didn't like talking about it because nobody wants anyone else to think that their mind is playing tricks on them. So what could it have been? A ghost? A spirit? Something from beyond this world? Well, hopefully tonight we'll come to some kind of an ideas. Won't have any answers, but we might get you thinking about it. So, shadow people, what are they? In an interview with Art Bell on Coast to Coast AM quite a long time ago, Harley Swiftdeer Reagan, referred to as Thunderstrikes in this particular interview, stated that shadow people are parallel dimensional beings who were first recorded by the indigenous people in 1153 BC. That would be before Christ. That would be 3,000 years ago. Thunder stated the shadow people, who he called inorganic beings, lived in a parallel dimension and fed off of our emotional discharge of energy along with chaos. In essence, shadow people are energy vampires. Animals may be more perceptive to shadow people than humans, according to Thunder. Cats seem to be most perceptive to shadow people, which is understandable as they have superior night vision. You might also see your dog appearing to be looking at something that may not be visible to you. I know this has happened to me and my wife on more than one occasion. We'll be sitting in the living room watching TV or listening to something on the internet, and suddenly the cats will all turn and face the hallway at one time with a look on their face of maybe not fear, but at least somewhat aggressive looks. And this happens often enough that I immediately grab my camera and just click pictures towards the opening to see if maybe I can get lucky and catch something. Reports of shadow people sightings come from all around the globe. Despite the fact that these sightings date as far back as ancient times, there's not much known about the phenomenon. The following information is some of what we do currently know. Very few people tell of being able to actually see shadow people straight on. Usually they're seen in one's peripheral vision, the corner of your eye, either the extreme left or the extreme right. There have been few reports of people having these shadow figures in a direct line of sight, and even interacting with them. The general consensus is they are malevolent beings. Shadow people's sightings are often associated with feelings of fear, unease, and discomfort. Additionally, some people have reported feeling extreme anger, agitation, discomfort when shadow beings are around because of the negative associations. Many believe they might be demonic. Maybe not actually demons, but have at least some connection to them. Shadow people seem to be like a living shadow, thus the name, shadow creatures, shadow beings, a wisp of black mass that you see, but you can't quite focus on. Some people see semi-transparent shadow splotches. They vanish as soon as the person realizes what they saw. There have been some reports of being attacked or chased by these shadows. The shadow creatures are usually larger than normal human shadow and resemble a person's silhouette. They're often reported moving with quick, jerky movement and quickly disintegrate into walls or mirrors. A few people consider them to be a form of guardian angel. I don't know where they come up with the idea, but that's the report I read. They think that perhaps this is their guardian angel that they're seeing, and since we're not supposed to see our guardian angel, that's why they immediately vanish. Others report that when looking at the chest or the eyes of the shadow person, the creature emits a scream of sorts that sounds like static, or maybe the sound of wood being creaked. Also, an alien wind has been reported. Some people say the shadow people appear to be in a state of suffering, sometimes intense, fearing retribution or confrontation with others who they have wronged in life, or the idea of being condemned to everlasting hell as punishment for past sins. In other words, shadow people are the manifestation of people who have died with a guilty conscience. Other shadow people hang around due to attachments to people, places or things, perhaps not realizing that they're dead. This would make shadow people more akin to ghosts than demons. Unfortunately, not having any actual answers, it's hard to say one way or another. We just have to keep looking until someday maybe we'll get lucky and figure it out. Jason Offutt from Mysterious Universe had this to say. He said there are benign shadows, shadow people that seem to travel briefly through a person's life. He says he saw one of these entities as a child. They appeared to walk with purpose through his room. They never acknowledged him. They went from one side of the room to the other without slowing down. He never felt any fear when he saw this, just an uneasy sensation of a dark human shape, trespasser walking past his bed. Negative shadows. Although these shadow people tend to simply lurk, they are associated with feelings of unnatural terror. The red-eyed shadows. These entities are always negative. They stare at the experiencer with blazing red eyes. The victims often say they feel this creature feeds off of their fear. Once again, kind of like a energy vampire or even a psychic vampire for that matter. There's the hooded shadows. They're dressed as ancient monks. People who encounter these shadow people feel a deep rage bubbling behind the black cowl. And then there's what they call the Hat Man. This entity is most curious. He's dressed with what looks to be a fedora on his head, and he sometimes appears to be wearing a business suit. What's odd is this particular image has been reported throughout the planet. Now, a fedora being seen in the United States might not be all that uncommon, but seeing one in India or China or countries that don't normally wear American headgear, this does sound just a bit strange. We're going to break here for a brief pause, listen to some interesting commercials, and then we will have our first guest of the night, John from Virginia. So stay tuned and listen up. You're listening to Arkanasa Radio. Do you have skin? Would you like to take better care of it? Call Lourdes James, independent beauty consultant, and set up an appointment. Call 723-3019. If your vision isn't what it used to be, and you're not sure you're seeing Bigfoot or just your neighbor mowing his lawn, stop on by Del Norte Optical, 107 Calle del Norte, just across the street from the Embassy Suites. You should be able to see what you're looking at. Dying for a good cup of coffee, and you just don't know where to go? Try the Organic Man Coffee Shop, 1002 Iturbide, Suite number 7. If you're not looking for a good cup of coffee, how about some hot tea or hot chocolate? They also have been known to have snacks like muffins and donuts. Swing on by the Organic Man Coffee Shop for some of the best coffee on the planet. 1002 Iturbide, Suite number 7. Remember, life is too short to drink bad coffee.
No, don't say goodbye. Stay with us. This is Arcanesa Radio. Quédate con nosotros. Estás escuchando Arcanesa Radio. You're listening to Strange Things with Chris James. Our first guest for tonight, John from Virginia. See if I can get him up here on the phone. Hopefully he'll answer quick. I don't even hear it ringing, which is kind of unusual. We don't have the... This is all new to me. New system. Keep pushing buttons until something happens. It says invalid phone number. Let me try this again, see if I can get him up on the phone. That's the great thing about modern technology. It will screw up if it can. Okay. Let's see, his number. Of course, I'm not going to read his number out over the air. That would just be wrong. Also, keep in mind that he does live in the mountains, and so the call might be having difficulty getting through. Ah, there we go.
Good evening.
John.
Yes, sir.
This is James calling from
Okay.
Strange Things, and you are on the air.
All right. Well, good evening. How are you?
Pretty good. It's about 105 degrees out, and it just rained, so it's a little humid down here.
That sounds about right.
So we're talking about shadow people, and I understand you've got some experiences to tell about. So in your own words, go ahead and let's hear what you got.
All right, yeah. See where I can take it to. I've had these strange experiences my whole life with the paranormal, or whatever you want to call it. At a young age, I became aware that we weren't alone on this planet, and I guess that's then when I had my flip switched. I guess I was about maybe 10, 11, 12, somewhere in there. This is a little unrelated, but I heard footsteps on the ceiling, people running around back and forth, and cabinets opening and closing. And that was some heavy knowledge for me. I was at, I guess that would be my Indian grandmother's house then. I'm half Native American, and that was our weekends, and that was just, normal occurrence for me. My parents would, or my mother would say, well, that's just the spirits fighting, and they're not getting along right now, and, normal thing for me. And it kind of settled down then, but that was some heavy knowledge for a young man, and it kind of died down a little while. But in terms of shadow people, this was, I guess, in my early 20s. I might have been 25 or 26. Well, I guess middle 20s then. And was home, visiting my parents, and it was late one evening. I couldn't sleep, and going downstairs to get a beverage, as
Yes.
it were. And I open the door, and there's this figure standing a little bit taller than me. I'm about 6'2",
Mm-hmm.
and I'm looking into the chest of this thing, and it's just a really dark shadow, a little transparent, but it's wearing, I don't want to say it's a top hat, maybe a fedora
Mm-hmm.
of some sort, but it's some sort of wide-brimmed hat, and it gives me goosebumps now just thinking about it, and I immediately back up and I close the door, and I run to, I guess, the far corner of my room, 'cause I've had, a lot of audio experiences, but never anything quite that visual.
Yes.
And then I asked my dad about it, I guess, the next day, and he said that he'd seen the same thing too, but it didn't have a hat. It had kind of like wildish type hair, and he said it was about, it was taller than, in
Mhm.
scale, it was taller than me too. So that was our old house, and I didn't really. I just kind of realized, kind of in my mind, I was kind of thinking this is something that's also out of the ordinary. I kind of just likened it to the paranormal activity that I saw when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, things have been kind of following me around a little bit. My then friend, now brother-in-law, he was telling about a time when I came over to his house, and I'd spent the night there, and something was trying to hold him down in his bed, and it was kind of choking him. I was sleeping in the living room, he was in his bedroom,
Mm-hmm.
and he said it was a shadowy figure, and he said he's a Southern Baptist, so he did I guess the Lord's Prayer and called out the name Jesus Christ, and it backed off of him, disappeared, and I guess I'm thinking it followed me home to where I'm at now. 'Cause there's certain, I can't really put it down to any major real time frame here, but a couple times a week, I could see where I'm downstairs in the living room. You got a clear shot. You can kind of see up the stairs there. I'll leave the light on for my
Mhm.
kids while they're upstairs sleeping, and there'll be something going in front of the light upstairs, and
Casting a
it
shadow.
doesn't feel, it doesn't really feel too bad, but it is
Mhm.
like a shadowy thing blocking the light from shining downstairs. And the first time it happened, I ran up there and maybe checked to see if it was some faulty wiring a little bit later, and this happens with other lights that I flip on up there. So I don't know. It was quite negative for my brother-in-law, but now that it's here with us, it just kind of seems to just move
Mhm.
around the house a little bit, and I can't really say what it is.
It's amazing. Some people have negative occurrences with these things, and then you have these other people who say, oh, it's my guardian angel that I see. And you just kind of wonder, why is it some shadows behave a particular way and other shadows behave another way? There is some research by shadow people investigators who say that not all shadow people are the same. They're kind of like humans. Some are good, some are bad, some are downright evil.
I wonder if that also depends on the person too.
That they never looked into. They just simply said that they knew that there were different varieties, but I don't think they investigated the people seeing these creatures. What was
variety.
it? What was it your mother had to say about shadow people?
Well, she said that it was, she had told me about it. This was, I guess, along the time that I heard the footsteps on the ceiling. She said that the shadow people were kind of, it's like a warning that you shouldn't be doing bad things, or you need to maybe think about your life and what direction it's heading.
Mm-hmm.
At the time that I'd seen the shadow person with the top hat, I was actually active in alcohol addiction, and since then I've been sober a few years, and
That'll sober you up.
not. Excuse me?
That should sober you up.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, and
start
a few
seeing
other
things.
but it's always been kind of a, I'm not sure if this is the right term, but kind of like a harbinger, like kind of like a warning that, better straighten out, or I guess we'll come visit you some more.
Not good. Well, it sounds like you've had a interesting life, to say the least. Anything else you want to add to the show before we let you go?
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Well, that's good to know. And with any luck, the show will have many more adventures to come.
I hope so. I look forward to it.
Alrighty. Thank you for the call, and we will be talking to you later.
Okay, you have yourself a good night.
That was John from Virginia. Lives way out in the mountains, and sometimes the phone doesn't work, so we were lucky to be able to talk to him through the whole show. Susan Lawrence Fowler in the official Shadow People archives. Now, all of these web pages can be easily accessed on the computer, so she had this to say about Shadow People. Sometimes it appears as the mere silhouette of a person, usually male, but generally lacking any other characteristics of gender. However, in no way does description end there. There are hatted shadow beings, hooded shadows, cloaked ones, and solid or wispy shadow people, as well as the smoky types. Some are seen only from the waist up. Others clearly have legs that are seen fleeing from their observers. They dart into corners, through walls, into closets, or behind television sets, bushes, and buildings. Sometimes they simply fade into the dark recesses of the night. Lacking in the description is a one common denominator, unifying the many different types of shadow people. After all, what does a shadow really consist of? It's simply a darker area that you can observe. Collected Facts About Shadow People by Amarilla 2012. I like it when people use their dates like that. Unfortunately, I was forced to do something similar with one of my web pages. The darker they are, the older they are. And naturally, the darker ones are more powerful. The freestanders are usually very dark, darker than the shadows around them. They do not need real shadows as much or as often as lesser shadow sprinters. Just like a freestander, only it is running away, and most accounts are wearing hats. This may not be a shadow person, but if it is, the hat may play a part in the ability to detach from the shadows. This would imply that the hat is some kind of a device or component that allows the shadow to move about without being in the shadows. The reason they hang around certain people is because these people are useful to them. They're not attached by negative energy or bad vibes. Those types of shadow people are what I refer to as other entities that can potentially harm you, especially the ones with red eyes. Most of the types with clothing. I've never seen a shadow person with any clothing on, including hats. This was all from Amarilla 2012. The Jinn Connection. Now, if any of y'all have been listening to Coast to Coast, either Art Bell or George Norrie, you will have heard Rosemary Ellen Guiley. She is a regular on the show. She had this to say about shadow people. She says she discovered that many shadow people experiencers are also ET experiencers, especially the abductees. Through a long process, she concluded that shadow people are a shapeshifter form taken by the jinn. There is a profound connection between the jinn and bad hauntings and ET abductions. Furthermore, the footprint of the jinn are evident throughout our mythologies about ancient aliens and gods. The picture that emerged is of a major jinn involvement in all of our entity contact experiences throughout history. Supposedly, there are giveaway signs. In old jinn lore, they could not duplicate 100% of the human body, and usually their animal-like hairy legs and feet gave them away. I have speculated that shadow people wear hats and cowls to cover up imperfections in their heads. Some experiencers say the eyes of the human-shaped jinn will shift to odd colors or a reptilian appearance. She said that she believes that the jinn and other shapeshifters are among us every day. We never know unless we have certain experiences with them. A Stephen Wagner, a paranormal phenomenon expert, had this to say about the shadow beings. He thought that perhaps they are people having out-of-body experiences. In other words, when you go to sleep at night and you're having a dream, your dream person is flighting about the countryside, visiting your neighbors who are at that time experiencing a shadow person. One interesting idea suggested that shadow people are shadows of the essence of people who are having an out-of-body experience. According to Jerry Gross, who is an author, lecturer, and teacher about astral travel, he says we all travel out of the body when we are asleep. Perhaps this theory says we are seeing the ephemeral astral body of those twilight travelers. There's a mouthful. This is a very interesting thought. Shadow people, he believes, are a kind of ghost of a living person who is in an unconscious state. Kind of like a doppelganger, but in the shadow realm as opposed to ghostly realm. Another idea that he had was that they could be time travelers. People from our future could have found the means to travel to the past, which would be our time. However, they're able to accomplish this incredible feat. Perhaps in that state, they appear to us merely as a passing shadow as they observe the events of our timeline. Another possible thought he had was interdimensional beings. Even mainstream science is fairly convinced there are dimensions other than the three that we inhabit, and if there are other dimensions, who or what, if anything, inhabit them? Now, could they be aliens? Aliens and abduction phenomena are so bizarre that it's no surprise that extraterrestrials are suspected as being shadow people. Abductees have reported in many cases that the alien greys seem to be able to pass through walls and close windows and appear to disappear abruptly among otherworldly talents. Now, this does kind of coincide with what people say in regards to the shadow people. They can go through walls, they can disappear into darkness at will. Now, Heather Jensen said in her page, Things You Need to Know About Shadow People, she says not all shadow people are the same. We covered that earlier. One thing that she learned when she was looking up things you need to know about shadow people actually all revolve around the fact that they aren't all the same. There are wispy shadow people, there are shadow people that are horrible and can terrorize you, and there are good shadow people. You just need to figure out which one of these you're dealing with. I know seeing shadow people can be kind of scary, but you've got to remember exactly what you are seeing and know that it is not going to harm you. Also, she suggests, keep a journal of your encounters so that you can really describe exactly what you're seeing so that you can remember it in detail. Now, that's the kind of thing I wished I had thought of. Write down the time, the place, and what it was that you experienced when you saw the shadow person. Especially if you've just woken up middle of the night, or if it's a situation where later, when you're trying to recall the situation, you can't remember any of the details. Whenever you have an encounter with shadow person, understand that you aren't the only person that is happening to. Tons of people experience shadow people, but they sometimes want to keep it to themselves. They don't want other people thinking that they're seeing things or that they might be losing control of their own minds. It's amazing how much regard people have for the thoughts of others. If you've had an encounter with a shadow person, why not research a little, see if you can connect with other people that have had encounters as well. Shadow people can appear in mirrors. You're standing in front of the mirror, you're shaving, you're brushing your teeth, you're doing something, and suddenly you see out of the corner of your eye what appears to be somebody standing behind you in the mirror. But when you turn to look, the person is gone. That could also be a shadow person manifesting in the mirror, or they're manifesting behind you and the reflection is showing up in the mirror. It's kind of a scary thought that somebody sneaks up and is standing behind you, but once you realize that it could possibly be just a shadow person, it kind of takes some of the terror away, knowing that nobody's broken into your house. Some shadow people can be demons. Well, that's reassuring to know, especially if the thing is standing right behind you. While he started that not all shadow people are bad, there are some of them that actually can be demons, and those are the ones that you do have to watch out for. You've really got to You've got to be careful whenever you do see a shadow figure, as you can't be 100% sure if it's a good one or a bad one. I guess the only way you can figure that out is if they try to attack you or not. We are going to take a brief pause here for a few commercials, and then we will be back with our second guest of the evening. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. You're listening to Strange Things with Chris James. Do you have skin? Would you like to take better care of it? Call Lourdes James, independent beauty consultant, and set up an appointment. Call 723-3019. If your vision isn't what it used to be, and you're not sure you're seeing Bigfoot or just your neighbor mowing his lawn, stop on by Del Norte Optical, 107 Calle del Norte, just across the street from the Embassy Suites. You should be able to see what you're looking at. Looking for a great cup of coffee? Stop on by the Organic Man Coffee Shop. 1002 Iturbide, Suite number 7. And there's plenty of parking at this new location. Not a coffee drinker? They also have hot tea, hot chocolate, and other drinks that you can consume while listening to the music or having a decent conversation with those around you. Swing on by the Organic Man Coffee Shop, 1002 Iturbide, Suite number 7.
No, don't say goodbye. Stay with us. This is Arcanasa Radio. Quédate con nosotros. Estás escuchando Arcanasa Radio.
You're listening to Strange Things with Chris James. Our second guest tonight will be Ishmael. He is the head of the Laredo Paranormal Research Society, if I can get him on the phone. He has some interesting experiences with shadow people as well.
Hello?
Hello, Ishmael.
Yes, sir.
It's Chris James from Strange Things.
Hey, how you doing, boss?
Yeah, pretty good. How's things in the paranormal world tonight?
Tonight is good. Forecasting a lot of plans of events coming up in the near future, mainly in the October area.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much, we're just setting plans right now, but we have good investigations that's happening here in Laredo, Texas, and the surrounding area.
Oh, that's good. Now, what was it, 2 years ago when we were investigating that old hospital? We were down in the basement.
Yes, sir.
We were heading towards the morgue. How about telling our listeners what happened that night?
That night, of course, we did a game plan, as safety accountability of the people going into that investigation. And at the entrance of this building, this old hospital, there's some stairs that, you walk in. It's like the emergency stairs instead of using the elevator. As we walking all the way down to the basement, going to the morgue, I noticed something that my goggles, I have some special camera that you put on, it's like sunglasses and it has night vision, infrared a light that flares it into this. And it was something new that we're using for the group. And I noticed that my flashlight dimmed out and dimmed back, and I noticed something very odd because the light flickered, and I was really amazed when that happened. I wanted to explain because of course during that I said, "Hey, this is odd," and I think I remember I call you.
Yes.
Hey, James, did you guys see this? Did you see something over here? And I started coughing from like something hit me in my throat, and I would just start coughing and coughing and coughing. I couldn't explain the experience.
Yeah, I thought you'd just gotten some dust or something.
But it was real quick, James. It was real quick. My catch in my eye picked up something. When we reviewed the video, that was totally amazing.
Oh, yes.
And we captured to believe something that resembles a shadow figure that covered the whole door entry of one of the rooms on the basement going to the morgue of this old hospital.
And that was not a small doorway. It was a very large one used in a hospital.
Yes, I guess it gave me guessing, that they had those big rooms, the big doors, to put the whole bed of a patient. So you can see maybe double the size of the door. This shadow figure just engulfed the whole door in my light. My light that there was, it couldn't penetrate.
Yes.
That's what was very paranormal, very unexplained. Couldn't penetrate. It's like it was eating the light, and just nothing reflected back.
Almost like it was feeding on the light.
Yes, sir. And of course, I got excited. We got the group. We showed the video. We had different opinions, but the other guys that saw the video, then we saw it like more than 100 times, and we rewind it and saw it. We saw the video, and we had different the possibilities, but it came out to be inconclusive because we couldn't explain it. It was just unexplained. But how the mass, it would look like a blob. Nothing resembled humanoid. It was just a circle, and it was tall. It just covered the whole door. So that was something that a glimpse of the eye couldn't pick up, but the camera did a phenomenal job on picking up this activity that we had witnesses to see.
Wasn't that the first time you used those goggles too?
That was the first time. I haven't told you, James, this is new stuff. This is new stuff. Because you have the camera in your hand, and within an hour or two, you start changing hands. Once you have the goggles, it's like you have a third eye. That's your camera. Then it's in between the top frame of the glasses. And technology has many breakthroughs to where we get more comfortable to capture more stuff. And it was the first time, yes, and we were able to catch that activity on video.
It was a good thing you had that particular setup, because otherwise it would have been just a fleeting image, and we wouldn't have had anything to show for the night.
And let me tell you, James, the good thing about the goggles versus the camera, you're looking through an eyepiece or a little monitor. This time, of course, I'm using my goggles, and I have free hands. I have my hands, and I had my hand and was recorded one side, and then I had my infrared flashlight. So I had more. I can say more observation,
more capability.
What I was doing. So I think that's something that I can tell you as a pro for using that type of goggles for the camera.
It's amazing, some of the new technology coming out that is being more focused towards what you all do, as opposed to having to take things from other companies, other businesses, and try and force them to do what you want them to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, what's the any new events coming up? Public events or anything at the library, perhaps?
Yes, we're working right now with a sister city, McAllen, Edinburgh. We're two cities, but they're right next to each other. The library there. One's for us to do a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation, see the equipment that we use. and it's mostly a whole day event, maybe give or take about three hours of presentation, and then we're going to have the students, and we're going to have the public there, and they're going to start asking questions, and a lot of the equipment that we have, many people, they're very curious, how does this work? So we do kind of hands-on and showing the different technologies that's out there that has been very beneficial for the modern-day paranormal investigator. That's one event that we're right now organizing with the head director of the library of the city of McAllen. And the other events we're looking at is that we have 3 major investigations, one local store in Laredo, Texas, that they've been seeing a lot of activity. The manager of it's a furniture store that.
You still there? Ishmael? Have I lost you? Well, apparently something has happened to the connection. Let me hang up and I'll try calling him right back and see if I can get him again. Unfortunately, now I got to dial the phone again. Trying to use a mouse to dial a phone is a little harder than it sounds. And I hope I got the right number there.
Hello?
Yes, I lost you there for a second.
Yes, you lost connection. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I don't know where I was cut off, but I was explaining the events.
Yes. We'd gotten up to the Edinburgh Library event, and then you're talking about some investigations that are coming up.
Yeah, there's a local furniture store that the manager of the store wants for us to do an investigation. It's a big building, and the salespeople and customers have seen things there. They're very odd, and examples are shadow figures. They have seen a little boy, or resembles a little boy, apparition that is running, and they say, "Whose boy is that?" Because when you see a little boy, you tend to see a parent,
running after
the little boy, and they ask, "There's a little boy around here. Maybe he's lost." And they go, "No, it's a ghost. It's one of our friendly ghosts that we have here. That he appears." So that's a potential investigation that we're setting up too, and we have the arena, the LEA arena that where they do public events and they have celebrities that come. They've been having a lot of activity. That's something that's coming up, hopefully by the end of this coming month of August. We also have a mall, Mall del Norte, in Laredo also that the administration has a lot of stories that they have witnessed in the security personnel that have seen things, because the mall closes, of course, they have to maintain security and surveillance, and they have seen things that they move with no explanation. For example, a balloon that starts moving like somebody's pulling it down and it's walking with it. They also have heard of voices and screams. It's just a lot of things that they want for us to go and investigate. So the good thing, what we do is that we have a public announcement, and we tell them, we're going to have an investigation, and we would like to invite 4 winners, to come, from the public, so they can see what we do and they can practice. Maybe it's an involvement that we like to do. Our group is a society that likes to get the public involved, so they can have a knowledge of what a paranormal investigator does during this investigation. So we get the public involved. So on all these 3 investigations, hopefully we can get people from we can announce it in the radio or social media, but get them involved to participate.
If somebody needed to or wanted to get a hold of y'all, how would they do that?
Right now, we have our best connection would be Facebook. We're under Laredo Paranormal Research Society. We have all our contact information. We have our phone number. We have an email. Our email is real simple. It's laredoparanormal@hotmail.com. The other way of getting a hold of us, the city of Laredo has our contact information as being part of the tourist attraction. You can call the city Tourist Bureau or Conventionist Bureau. They can locate us. They have our information. Plus, they're working on making a brochure of our activities for the public here, and that's another way. So the city and our social media through Facebook.
Alrighty, and of course, don't want to forget about the upcoming movie event in October.
Yes, that'll be October 22nd. This is going to be a good event for the public. I'm lost for words right now because I'm getting excited just to explain. We're going to have from 3:30 in the afternoon to 7:30. We're going to have a car show because we're going to use the whole parking space of the mall on the side. And we're going to have a car show with 2 categories for first and second place and third. Our first category will be car audio, sound off, for the cars, and then the other category would be the best dressed or best theme of Halloween that a car would be dressed up as creative as the public can be. That will be the 2 categories that we're going to have in the event. Then our group is going to present in a big movie screen for the public, and all this is at no charge for the public. This is open, free, totally free. We're going to have a movie and presentation of real evidence captured by us throughout the years, and show this to the public also. And the movie that we're going to show is, I think the celebrity that comes out in the movie is Jack Black, and it's Goosebumps.
Okay.
It's an action adventure, a little bit of horror movie, but it's good for all ages and the family. And we're going to have food trucks. We're going to have vendors that are going to be selling cotton candy, ice cream, and plus they're going to have a costume contest. They're going to have an animal or a pet contest on Halloween for the pets. So there's a lot of activities, and we're going to add more activities as we go. We're organizing as we speak this, as we're planning this month. We should have a poster and a social media within the next 2 weeks. We'll start promoting this. And I repeat this, it's going to be October 22nd. And I believe it's on a Friday. No, on a Saturday, I'm sorry, Saturday. October 22nd. So if you're here in Laredo, Texas, please do come and bring your family. You will have a good time. Unusual, paranormal, action, adventure way. And it's going to be a lot of fun.
Sounds like a good time had by all. This will be the second year at the mall?
This is the second year. The first year was more like a blueprint to see, how we can do this better. And every year we forecast to have more events. So kind of the first year, which was last year, it kind of did the point of reference. Now more people are getting involved, more social media and to promote this because, it's something that is free for the public. People need to capitalize to have that, to bring their family to see something, and we're trying to give that drive-in movie, outdoor movie feeling. And I know right now the summer it's super hot, but in October, it starts to cool down. The weather's perfect. Go out at night, clear sky, and even though that it's going to be outside, if it rains, we have a plan B. We'll do it inside the mall. So that's a backup plan.
Always got to have a backup plan.
Yes.
Well, thank you for being on the show tonight, and I'll have to have you on some night here in the studio so you can tell us more about the Laredo Paranormal Research Society.
James, thank you for the invitation, and a big hug for everybody, and blessings for everybody that loves to do what we do. And remember, the curiosity is the key of success of many people to go forward to investigate the unknown. Thank you, sir.
You bet. Appreciate it, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Yes, sir. Bye.
That was Ishmael from the Laredo Paranormal Research Society. He's one of the founders. If you happen to be into reading, there is a book out called the Laredo Paranormal Research Society. It's available at Amazon.com, and just about any bookstore can order it if you wish to ask. And yes, I did have something to do with writing it. So look up the Laredo Paranormal Research Society by Chris James at Amazon.com and enjoy the book. And if you bring it to the show, you can get Ishmael to sign it for you. red eyes and yellow eyes are common when it comes to shadow people. If you see a shadow figure, you should try to see if you can locate the eyes and see what color they are. The idea is that if they have red eyes, you just might be dealing with something a little more substantial than just a shadow being. They think that the red eyes are related to demons. If you've seen a shadow person in your life, it will get your attention. Now that we know some additional information about shadow people, have you ever had an encounter of your own? If you have, Heather Jensen, Jenson, is asking you to please contact her with any more information you might have. She's in the process, I believe, of writing a book and would love to hear from you. That's Heather Jensen. I don't have any more contact information for her. Danny Harper, who's an author, paranormal researcher, he says, you're sitting in front of your TV set at home, and suddenly you think you see something out of the corner of your eye. You turn and look, and there's nothing there. So you just write it off as to your imagination. And then you see it again. And you think to yourself that your mother had always warned you that you'd ruin your eyes by watching too much TV. You should maybe get the hall light fixed or change the light bulb because it's flickering. When in actuality, what you're seeing is a shadow person. The shadow person is the most likely paranormal phenomenon that a person is going to convince themselves they didn't actually see. It's not like when you actually see a ghost and you say, my God, that was a ghost. A shadow person, you see it out of the corner of your eye. You turn, you look, you don't see anything. Your brain will almost automatically try to convince you you're just imagining things. That's just the way we work. We're going to break now for a few commercials and a chance to catch my breath, and we will be right back after these brief commercial messages. You're listening to Strange Things with Chris James. Do you have skin? Would you like to take better care of it? Call Lourdes James, independent beauty consultant, and set up an appointment. Call 723-3019. If your vision isn't what it used to be, and you're not sure you're seeing Bigfoot or just your neighbor mowing his lawn, stop on by Del Norte Optical, 107 Calle del Norte, just across the street from the Embassy Suites. You should be able to see what you're looking at. Dying for a great cup of coffee? Swing on by the Organic Man Coffee Shop, 1002 Iturbide, Suite number 7. Not a coffee drinker? They have hot tea, hot chocolate, and other beverages that you may find to your taste. It's a great place to sit down and have a conversation where you can actually hear yourself think and talk. Organic Man Coffee Shop, 1002 Iturbide, Suite number 7. Life is too short to drink bad coffee.
No, don't say goodbye. Stay with us. This is Arcanelza Radio. Quédate con nosotros. Estás escuchando Arcanelza Radio.
You're listening to Strange Things with Chris James. Welcome back to Strange Things. Now, is there a difference between shadow beings and ghosts? Well, it seems like a ghost, anyone that's ever reported seeing one, they're human shaped. They have a head, they have shoulders, they have arms and legs. Well, sometimes they have legs, and sometimes they just kind of disappear below the waist. But they look like a human. They have features usually. Usually are wearing clothing. A shadow person, on the other hand, is simply a dark shadow. You see the shape, you see the silhouette, you see something out of the corner of your eye. It's dark, it's there, you know it's there, but you can't actually say what it looked like, or you can't describe any details other than the fact that it was so tall, it was so wide, it did or did not have on a hat. They're silent. No one has ever reported hearing anything from a shadow person. They move through doors, they move through windows, they don't have to open or close anything in order to come and go. They don't make a sound as they cross the floor. Now a poltergeist, on the other hand, which is a noisy ghost, that's the sound of the creaking floorboards you hear in the middle of the night, or the sound of furniture being dragged back and forth across the floor. They make sound, that's why they're called poltergeist or noisy ghost. Don't get confused between shadow people and ghosts. Now they're not all human-shaped. Some are just a dark mass that you see. Some look like animals. I've heard people report seeing what they thought was a large black cat jumping from one point to another, and then the cat would simply fade or vanish when the person tried to look closer. Shadow beings that look like animals. The shadow beings in legend. Shadow human-like figures appear in Native American stories, and some of these shadow beings are said to be shapeshifters. They too are able to change their shape and are said to inhabit a parallel universe or parallel world to humans. Many people still believe that they exist. Could there be a natural explanation? Well, of course, the scientists who should be looking into the shadow person events instead of trying to explain them away, they will tell you it's your imagination. You've been watching too many ghost shows on TV. Or it will be something that they refer to as hypnagogia, which is you're asleep at the time, you're dreaming, but you think you're awake. Now, I've had some dreams where I would have sworn I was awake, but I've never been awake thinking I was dreaming, or vice versa. When I've had my shadow person experience, I wasn't sleeping. I was sitting up in a vehicle. I wasn't tired. I'd been there maybe a few minutes, and I had a giant cup of coffee with me. I was very much awake. And yet, I saw this dark mass come up alongside my window, stand there, turned and looked, and there was no one there. Scientists are quick to explain things that they don't understand with explanations that may sound good, but when you actually start digging down past the layers of obtuse wording, sometimes you find out that their explanations really don't amount to anything. Others have claimed that they might be from another dimension. Now, Lionel Fanthorpe, an Anglican priest who is also an exorcist and a paranormal researcher, and he's written about 240 books. Not all are nonfiction, some are fiction, but he is a prolific writer, and he's a black belt kung fu instructor, and he sings in a barbershop quartet. Quite a busy man. He likened time to be like a ball of yarn, where it's all wrapped back and forth and around itself, several hundred layers. And his concept was that wherever two strands cross, that perhaps that's where we can actually see things from the past. Now, in a similar vein, what if dimensions are like that? Where wherever two timelines or two-dimensional lines cross, that happens to be where you will have your shadow person event. Helicopters. Science now tells us that 95% of the universe is composed of something called dark matter. They don't know what it is, they just know that that's what they call it. According to Stephen Hawking, he says there could be shadow galaxies, shadow stars, and even shadow people. Then there's the possibility, what if they're time travelers? In the movies, whenever a person goes back in time, they look just like everybody around them. They have to dress the same so they don't stand out. If you go back to the 1100s and suddenly appear wearing a t-shirt and a pair of short pants, they'll tie you to a stake and set you on fire thinking you're a witch. So if you're traveling through time, you've got to dress appropriately. Well, what if the time travelers have figured out a way to send their conscious mind through time? And so what we're actually seeing in this dark shape is simply the manifestation of their mind, and it appears to be a dark mass because we can't focus on it. Just another thought. Then there are those that say that perhaps shadow people are what's called a thought entity, also known as a tulpa. A movie, 1956, called Forbidden Planet. It featured the concept of subconscious thoughts being brought to life. This correlated with a number of legends from different cultures. Good movie if you get a chance to check it out, starring Leslie Nielsen from Airplane. Surely you must be kidding. But a tulpa is if several people are all thinking the same thought at the same time, and they think on it hard enough and long enough. The theory is that you can bring your thoughts into fruition. You can actually create an entity. Well, this could explain why several people might see a shadow person, but why would one person by themselves be seeing shadow people? And then what about the dozen or so photographs that people have managed to capture of these creatures? So the idea of it being a tulpa is interesting, but I don't know if that would quite explain what we're seeing. We don't know what shadow people are, and science won't help out. Most scientists are more interested in studying things that are already well known, and they're going to shy away from anything that is even slightly fringe. Scientists will not acknowledge that Bigfoot could possibly exist simply because they don't want to look into anything that might get somebody to laugh at them. Have you seen, or do you think you've seen a shadow person? Don't be too quick to write it off as your overactive imagination. The more you try to convince yourself it's all in your mind, the less you'll find out about the world we live in. On the other hand, acknowledge the fact that perhaps you did see something. Document it. Write down the time and the place and what was going on and what it is you thought you saw. And if you'd like to, you can share your story with me, and I will promptly share it with everyone else. If you'd like to contact me at strangethings@arkanasa.com, we'll see if we can't get some really good shadow people or Bigfoot stories together, and we'll make another show out of it someday. Next Saturday, tune in. We'll be discussing superstitions, what they are and why so many people that have actually got superstitious beliefs will claim that they don't. So tune in, Strange Things, next week, where we'll be talking about superstitions. Hope you enjoyed tonight's show, and tell your friends if you liked it.
Are you coming to the tree where they strung up a man, the same murder 3? Strange things that happen here, how stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree?